Benita, my dear, you have spoken very eloquently, especially about women issues. So thank you for that. Very
And then you take a picture.
And Jack, you are amazing. You are a great leader. And you know, the insurance companies, they don't want to pay for anyone. So I'm glad you tackled that. This is for you. And come this way.
1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Now we would like to take a little moment to listen to two young ladies who are also youth, very prominent, very talented, and they will be joining us with their beautiful music. One of the things that we do at the International Federation, we promote arts and music and sports for peace. And we have programs in several refugee camps that we have also donated soccer balls. We have programs to keep them occupied with art. We have some equipment with music, but we're still trying to get more equipment and more musical instruments to keep them busy, to give the youth the hope, even when they are as refugees. So now we are privileged really to have the both young ladies come closer, and I will introduce them. Miss Lee Jung-Shin, she will be playing the viola, and Lily Waye, she will playing the violin. They went to school at the Manus School for Music, and Ms. Chen, she is working for her master's degree. And Miss Lily, she is also with Columbia University, and she played at Lincoln Center and Carnegie Hall. So we are really privileged to have both of you here. Thank you. without preparation, she went up and took the stage and spoke. And then I got to know who she is, and I'm very impressed. I would like to share who she is with all of you. Emilia Sawalic is a compassionate, global-minded humanitarian that is from Minnesota, and she believes in leadership is the most effective when it highlighting individual strength and connects people through philanthropic endeavors. Emilia considers herself fortunate to learn from some of the world's best philanthropic and business leaders. She volunteers with the Starkey Hearing Foundation and to give the world the gift of hearing. This mission has already taken Emilia to over 15 countries. She plans to study philanthropy / nonprofit business in college and continue serving and growing as a leader. She's still in high school. Give her a big hand.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emilia Sawalic, and I'm so happy and humbled to be here with you today. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Cater for inviting me, as well as the ambassadors for giving me the opportunity to speak before you. It is an honor to be able to share a little bit about what I believe as a youth philanthropist working with the Starkey Hearing Foundation. Walter Cronkite, a well-known journalist and news anchor for CBS, once stated that the Starkey Hearing Foundation team members were the best possible ambassadors America could send abroad. A few years ago, I couldn't quite understand this statement. I would ask myself, Starkey of all people, could our team really live up to that? But now that I've worked alongside Starkey and seen the direct transformational impact, I understand that we do have the power to invoke global change. Starkey has programs in 61 countries providing hearing aids to those in need. So far, we've fit hearing aids to millions of people, and we're just getting started. Starkey and our team members all eat, sleep, and breathe one vision: to help the world hear again. Over the past year and a half, I've had the opportunity to experience 15 countries, and this is what I've seen. Hearing is profoundly valuable, and it is also profoundly undervalued by most of us. We take not only hearing, but all 5 of our senses for granted every day. When individuals come to us living with a hearing loss, many feel as though a part of them is missing. They haven't heard their family's voice in years. They haven't heard everyday noises like the approaching of footsteps, the flowing of water, or the joy of laughter. Our mission is to give that back to them. When these individuals regain their ability to hear, they also gain the chance at a whole new life. And that chance has no limit. In 2015, we worked with a 74-year-old patient named Dolores from the Philippines. She was brought to us by ambulance suffering from stage 4 breast cancer. Her family accompanied her, but they hadn't been able to communicate due to Dolores' hearing loss. Our team fitted her with hearing aids, and at that moment, she was reconnected with her family. Families like hers understand the value of hearing and know how important it can be, even if it's only for a short amount of time. Dolores passed away a few days later. But in those final days, she was able to hear her family, to be comforted by her family, and to say, "I love you" to her family for the last time. Experiences like this exemplify what is so incredible about this work. We are helping connect people back into the mainstream of life. The only way to accomplish such a connection is by working as a team. It may seem impossible for a single person to make a difference on a global scale, but when many people unite as a team, we can work together, and through that, we can make a difference. Our desire is not to own something bigger or to manage something bigger. Our desire is to be a part of something bigger. Each and every person has unique abilities that they could contribute to this cause. And when you know you're a part of something that's improving lives near and far, it changes your life just as much as it changes others. We find our humanity when we help others find theirs. Here in the United States, we live in the land of opportunity, but there are so many people elsewhere in the world who aren't as fortunate. I was reminded of this last year on one trip to Africa. We arrived at our mission on a small island off the coast of Kenya, and soon after we arrived, we received shocking news. Out of all the kids that were coming to see us, more than half were seeing the town they lived in for the first time. How is this possible? These children were all hearing impaired, and many families were so ashamed that they hid their own child from the world. It is so painful to imagine a lifetime of confinement to your house, being forbidden to ever step foot outside, just because you have a hearing loss. When we met these children, we knew they had overcome countless hardships, and we hoped to help lessen their burden in the way we know best, through the gift of hearing. After being fit with hearing aids, these children were able to rejoin the community and start their lives, and are now empowered to live life to the fullest and no longer be held back by a hearing loss. In other cases, kids are often incorrectly placed in deaf schools. When we visited these schools, we've come to notice that the majority of students are not actually deaf, they're just hearing impaired. There's a vast difference between the two, and when these children are incorrectly labeled as deaf, their chances at a fully accessible life are severely limited. Because these children are not fully deaf, their hearing can usually be restored with hearing aids. It's that simple. Once they are fit with hearing aids, they are one huge step closer to reaching their full potential and leading a fully accessible life. I've come to deeply understand that everybody is worth it in this world, every single person. No one is too small or too insignificant to matter. Take Andreas, a 24-year-old outcast from Ethiopia. Before we met Andreas, he had been struggling to survive day to day. He was suffering from both hearing loss and a disease called mossy foot. His conditions led him to being kicked out of his own community, and he was reduced to living under a tree. No one would help him. Those who would walk past his tree would throw rocks and even spit on him. Andreas' leg was being treated at a local clinic when Starkey arrived. One of our team members started talking with him and noticed that he had a hearing loss. So a few days later, the team returned and successfully fit Andreas with hearing aids. After getting his hearing back, he was finally able to communicate his story. Andreas trusted my grandfather enough to show him how deeply the disease was affecting his body and his mind. Realizing that he needed immediate medical intervention, Starkey sent him to Israel for professional care. He received treatment there, and within a few months, Starkey was able to bring him to the States and showed the original team how much progress Andreas had made since they last saw him. Andreas has a heart full of such love and strength that we wanted to help secure the option for him to stay in the U.S. Today, he lives in Minnesota and is very grateful for the new life he has received. Andreas is the most thankful person I know, and he deserves it all and more. He knew in his mind that he was worth it, and he also knew that someone else would eventually see it too, so he persevered until his day came. Andreas' story truly embodies the belief that the hearing is the road to the heart. Hearing is also a human right, across all faiths, cultures, genders, races, and ages. As we've seen with Andreas and Dolores and many other patient stories, being able to hear meant being able to fully engage in their lives. Prior to receiving hearing aids, Andreas and Dolores were existing but not truly living. To live means to connect. Connect ideas, values, emotions, energy, and of course love. We are social creatures, and the greatest extender of life is social connection. Without it, we become isolated and unhappy, failing to reach our full potential. We become disconnected and forget that we are all a part of one giant community, one human family. But it's easy to focus on the negatives, to get wrapped up in the injustices of this world. It's true, there are injustices at every corner and in every country. However, instead of being immobilized by this, we should be ignited by this. The only way our world can know peace is through us. We are responsible for the safety and well-being of all people, not just those who look like us, speak like us, or live like us. There are many ideas and sayings I believe in, but there's one in particular that I live. If you don't relate to the past, you can't have dreams for the future. Over the past year and a half, I've learned more than I could ever tell you. I've had countless teachers along the way. Some in the form of Starkey team members, others in the form of strangers turned into friends like Andreas. Through these connections, I've had the privilege of collecting many lifetimes' worth of wisdom, and I want to bring this to the next generation of youth. We are a strong and powerful generation, even if most of us don't know that quite yet. You wouldn't believe the things fresh, young minds can do when they're challenged to come together. We need these young, brave minds to help shape our future, and not just the distant future. What we achieve today determines what our world looks like tomorrow. There are people out there, but we have to find them, and they have to find themselves. Each and every person has strengths, gifts, and ideas to share. If we all unite and work towards a better tomorrow, we have the potential to positively transform the world and lives of everyone in it. The best way to predict the future is to create it, so I encourage you to go find yourself. Find the compassion, responsibility, humility, and courage within. Once you do, you will understand what we three feel about the world and how together we can become unstoppable. It all starts with you. Be the change you wish to see in the world. We only have one life to give, and one life to live, and one life to give. Let's make it count.
Thank you, Emilia. Now it's with a great privilege again to introduce another very accomplished young lady, and would like to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Malika Dijalova. Malika completed middle and high school in the United States, and she continued schooling in Tashkent State University of Economics in Uzbekistan. She went on for her master's, and she wrote her thesis on child labor and pursued a career in education. She worked an advisor and is still working as an advisor to UNW2, WTO. Forgive me. Please give her a big welcome.
Thank you, Madam President, for the introduction. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends. It is with great enthusiasm I sit before you on this occasion where we celebrate International Youth Day under this year's noteworthy theme, Safe Spaces for Youth. But what is the space that we're always referring to? What do we mean exactly when we, the youth, are appealing to be given our space? For me, SPACE can be used as an acronym for the following: safe place to actively collaborate and engage, a place where our opinions are taken into account, where our efforts are not undermined and our voices can be freely echoed. We, the youth in the contemporary world, are the largest youth population the world has ever witnessed. There are so many of us, and yet not all live in a safe community, nor have access to decent education or have a voice. Many of us, if given that chance and space, can contribute to make a great change, to make this world a little better place to live. But yet again, not all are given that opportunity. Every one of us sitting here comes from a different background, different origin, and different countries. But what helped gather us here in this very room today is the holistic view we have about the importance of youth. We got here after many years of education, many years of hard work and studies, and sleepless nights with textbooks in our hands, and I'm sure everyone agrees on that. Without the basic access to education, none of us would be sitting here, and that is what I would like to highlight in my speech today. The importance of education by adding a flavor of gender equality. What better way to deliver a message than share a short story about how education helped empower one girl, how education gave one girl a voice and created space for her to echo it without any fear. And this girl sits before you today, me. From the age of 2, I was exposed to a diverse community living in various countries. I had always come across challenges while studying abroad that exposed me to varying cultures, traditions, and customs, where I delved into the world of unfathomable fun and mystery. When living abroad, you learn, and you learn to shape your values. It helps increase your general knowledge about the world and expand your horizon. I had always tried to excel in my studies because for me and my family, education was a priority. For us, it meant everything. But little did I know the future awaiting me was a total contrast. I fell into a family where the value of men prevailed. Women were often looked at as objects with main obligations of marrying only and reproducing. I am speaking from personal experience, locked into an abusive relationship, not allowed to raise my voice, nor express my opinion, for one reason only, because I was a female. But through it all, I was fortunate to have had my parents' support and reminding me, and I will quote, "You can reach any goal you set for yourself, because even when the whole world is against you, you will always have education to land on. You are that someone who is bound to make a change in this world, because education enables you to have a voice. Not to be someone mediocre, but to be different, to help people like yourself." Thus, I relied on the education I had, but I knew I had to go further. I was driven to go forward because I had to prove that girls and women are more than zero. They are somebody with value. With education being my only way of survival through the challenge I was going through in my life, I went on to study my master's program in development policy. The more I studied, the more I felt confident, and the more I felt my voice can be heard. The first time I confidently raised my voice was when I learned about the abduction of Chibok schoolgirls in Nigeria. Together with colleagues from more than 30 countries studying at Korean Development Institute School of Public Policy and Management, we took initiations to raise awareness about the abduction of our sisters by the Boko Haram, with messages of hope and bring back our sisters, written signs in several different languages. We marched through the streets of Seoul, Korea, with one mission: to add our voices to keep the conversation going. Education allowed me to look at the world with different eyes. It has opened new horizons for me. Thus, I wanted to use my education as a basis to help other people. Upon the completion of my master's program, I had turned my focus on promoting good quality education, where I worked with youth, both male and female. We helped the younger generation by consulting them about making right choices in regards to education, by explaining to them the true value of education, because their voices, intellectual ability is the country's future. They are the maintainers of the sustainable future we are working on now. But we understood there was much more needed to be done. Therefore, we decided to expand and create opportunities for youth by opening a learning center where we gathered groups of people and taught them language to help them expand their horizon, gave motivational speeches to empower them. I always found myself speaking to my peers who are or might have encountered the same challenges that I had. We had created our own group where we discussed different issues, challenges, and how we as females can help each other grow. And such small meetings actually made a big difference in people's lives. Access to education for all will act as a strong foundation to help create safe space for youth, to help empower both men and women, and help give us our voice. The message I would like you to draw from my remark today is that I'm just one small example of how females face abuse in this world. We must educate girls and women to help them understand their value, because the 2030 agenda will not be achieved without their contribution. Significant challenges lie ahead in achieving this agenda, and education can be one of the main solutions to tackle such daunting tasks. And I would like to conclude my message by saying that I plan to work on a new project known as I'm Not Zero, which aims to focus on young girls, women, young mothers by creating small educational centers within different communities. You can also refer to as small vocational training centers in the area they would like to develop in. This project will focus on the group of people who are less privileged, who do not have decent access to education, and most importantly, who do not have a voice. Through such trainings, they can help build their knowledge, utilize the knowledge acquired, and turn it into a small business to help them generate an income to become self-reliant. We can help everyone shape themselves and have their voices be heard. Education is the best investment we can make in order to create a space for all to give them a voice. It is one of the biggest challenges, yet it will be one of our biggest accomplishments. Thank you.
Bravo. Thank you. Now I would like to introduce a very talented young man. His name is Jack McConnell. Jack was born with a hearing loss and has been wearing hearing aids since he was 6 weeks old. When he was in the 5th grade, he started a nonprofit foundation called 2020. He has been able to financially support many children that could not afford hearing care. Okay. Jack helped to pass a new law in his home state requiring private insurance to cover the cost of hearing care. Jack intends to pursue a college degree in engineering in order to make hearing devices and wearable more affordable. Please give him a big hand.
First of all, thank you so much, Mr. and Ms. Cater, for having me here, and thank you everyone for being here. I feel so incredibly humbled and honored to be here. I'm 17 years old. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And when I was born, I was diagnosed with hearing loss. I was blessed to have been born the same week that newborn hearing screening was implemented in my home state. So I was actually the first baby in the state of Georgia identified with hearing loss. As a result of that, I was identified early, and I was thrust right into early intervention. I got my first pair of hearing aids when I was 6 weeks old. I went to the Atlanta Speech School. I had speech therapy. I had the best audiology care around me. So I was very blessed right off the bat. As a result of that, I grew up just a pretty normal kid, pretty normal life, never really realized my hearing loss and my hearing aids. It's just kind of something I took in and out to be able to hear, and it was just kind of a mundane routine. But as I got older, I became more and more self-aware of my hearing loss and my hearing aids, and not for the best. It was all like the negative impacts I saw myself and how the negative impacts it had on me. I looked around and I saw all the people I looked up to, my mentors, the people I thought I was cool, the people I thought were cool, and my friends when I was in 5th grade, and I saw them and I thought to myself, why am I the only one with hearing aids? Why am I the only one with hearing loss? Why am I different from the rest? And so my 5th grade self interpreted that as, everyone else is better than me, and I'll never be able to amount to anything. None of my mentors, none of my successful mentors, none of them have hearing aids. Like, I'll never be able to amount to anything in this world. I'll never have a purpose in this world, all because of my hearing aids. I thought that I could never have an impact on this world, and that's the only thing I ever wanted as a kid, was to be able to help others and impact others. But I thought, with my hearing loss, I'll never be any good. And I had zero self-confidence because of that. I went through a really rough patch with depression in 5th grade just because I thought of myself that way. But around that same time, I needed new hearing aids. And my audiologist said, hey, why don't you go check out Starkey Hearing Technologies? They make some pretty cool hearing aids. And not really knowing much about hearing aids besides the fact that I had to wear them, for some reason I was like, okay, I'll go online, I'll look at them. And while, yes, they did have really cool hearing aids, the hearing aids weren't what caught my eye. It was the fact that they had a link to a foundation on their page. And as Amelia told us all, we all know what the Starkey Hearing Foundation does. And I soon found that out sitting behind that computer screen in 5th grade. And right then and there, my life would change, because for the first time ever, I thought that I could have a purpose in this world and with my hearing loss. For the first time ever, something my dad had said to me and my siblings growing up finally clicked with me. He always told us we all have these God-given gifts, and it's up to us to use them to serve others. And right then and there, I realized that my hearing loss, my hearing aids, that was my God-given gift. That was my gift. For the longest time, I only let myself see the negative, but little did I realize that that was my gift, and that I was supposed to use this gift of my hearing loss, be able to be a light to the hearing impaired all throughout the world. And so I kid you not, I read every story, looked at every picture, watched every video of these people receiving the gift of hearing in all these different countries, and I was like, that I have to do that. Like, that is why I'm on this earth. That is why I have hearing loss. So I wrote a letter to the head of the Starkey Hearing Foundation, Bill Austin. I wrote him a letter, and that right there, that was the beginning of my journey. That was the beginning of my life, really. Since that day, I've been blessed to have been on 11 Starkey missions in 6 different countries. I have started my own foundation, 2020 Hearing, and our mission is to financially support families in the United States who cannot afford to pay for their children's hearing care, and we are advocates for the hearing impaired community throughout the United States. So I went from feeling like I had no purpose in life. I went from feeling like I could help nobody and I could have no impact on this world, to being able to use the thing I called a burden, the thing I hated most about myself, to be able to serve others and help others like me. I went from thinking my hearing loss it's something I never want anyone to see, to being able to use it as a gift, to be able to fit a mother in Africa with hearing aids so that she can hear her child say "I love you" for the first time, or a father, so he can go to work and he can have a job to be able to financially support his family, or a child so that they can go to school. They can be a kid, they can play sports, they can make friends, they can take part in their family. Or in the United States, being able to financially support these families so that these kids, they can go to school and that they can do great things in their own community. So really what I'm getting at here is that we all have gifts. Every single person in this room, every single person on this earth, is that we all have these gifts. And we may not know what they are, and that's completely fine, because most people, they don't understand what their gifts are till later in life. But when we use our gifts, when we find our gifts and we use them to serve others, we can have a huge impact on this world. We can change so many lives. For those of us who don't know what our gifts are, and for the most part, that being the youth of this world, every single young person in this room, every single young person on this planet, we all have one shared common gift. And that is the fact that we are young. That is the fact. Our gift is our youth. That is our age. And what I mean by that is that we're, as young people, we don't confine ourselves to any boundaries whatsoever, for the better or the worse. But, we see any opportunity as, the sky's the limit and then some. We don't let anything hold us back. We can use our youth as a gift to empower, inspire, and impact many people. When I was 12 years old, I was coming back from my first mission trip in Ghana, and I was thinking to myself, after being able to fit all these people with hearing aids, I was thinking, I want to do this for the rest of my life, but I don't want to just help a certain amount of people. I want every single person on this on this earth to be able to hear. And I was like, if everyone can have 20/20 vision, I want everyone to have 20/20 hearing. And that took a 12-year-old to say that. That took a kid to be able to say that. Most adults would not say that with constraints. They would think that that's impossible to achieve. But that really, I believe that day, and I believe it this day, that can happen. And it takes a young person to be able to do that. And that's one of the instances that being young can be so special. Another place in my life that I saw that being young and having youth can be a tremendous impact on those around me is, so most insurance companies do not cover the cost of hearing care, and hearing care is very expensive. So in my home state, a group of people were trying to get a law passed making so that insurance had to cover the cost of hearing aids for children in Georgia. And I was blessed to be able to come alongside them and help them. But, going into it, I thought that I couldn't really make a big impact. There's nothing I could really do to help them. I thought, maybe I can go in and give a little hoorah, let's get these kids hearing aids, but there's nothing that I could really do to help or empower or influence people. But, so I was blessed to be able to share my testimony and my story with these senators, legislatures, and representatives in these committee meetings and insurance hearings and all these different things, and I was able to share my story. And what they saw was a young person trying to change the world, a young person trying to help others. And what I realized then is that is very inspiring and very impactful. And as a result of that, we were able to get access to people, places, and things that we hadn't before. And that very year, the law was passed, and it was put into effect, and I was blessed to have them name it in my honor. I went into this thinking, I'm not special. I mean, then I was just a 16-year-old kid. There's nothing I could do to change any of these people's mind. I mean, they're all professionals. They have degrees. They have all these big smart words that I don't understand. Like, there's nothing that I could do to really impact or make it influence. But that was the complete opposite. It was all because I was young. One of the insurance lobbyists lobbying against our bill from Aetna, he came up to us and said, how do you fight against a young kid with hearing loss trying to help other young kids with hearing loss? He's like, you just can't do that. It's impossible. And I learned so much about this experience, but the number one thing I learned is that just being young, you can have a tremendous impact on those around you and be able to gain so much influence. I realized that young people, we don't really have an agenda. We don't go into things thinking, what can I get out of this? Our only agenda is to be able to help others and serve the world. The common societal belief of young people is that, we just sit around all day, play video games, watch Netflix, like we don't really do much. But I think the youth of this world, that we really need to break away from that, and we need to show everyone that, a youth is our gift, and we need to find our gifts, not because we should, as young people, not because we should or it's the right thing to do. No, it's because we're the future generation of this world, and we're the future leaders of this world, and pretty soon it's going to be up to us to take care of this world. And that is just incredibly important, that we need to take that responsibility. It doesn't take money or fame or mission trips to be able to make a difference. You can make a huge difference right in your own backyard. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe in. We all have these gifts, and when we find them and when we use those gifts, our God-given gifts, we can have a huge, tremendous impact right at home or all throughout the world.
I have to listen to him. I cannot tell you how thankful I am for all of what you're saying. And it's just amazing experience you've had. You've been in so many countries, you've done so many things. And this is the activism. I have another activist here that I would like also to have him say and share, and then we can have some question and answer, hopefully after this. And thank you. Please give him a big hand. We have some of our ambassadors that have to go to another engagement, so thank them again, give them a big hand. Now I would like to introduce a young man. His name is Ramon Contreras. He's a 19-year-old student activist based out of New York City. He is the founder of Youth Over Guns, an organization dedicated to bringing more awareness to gun violence in Black and brown communities. On June 2nd, 2018, Ramon organized the Youth Over Guns March across the Brooklyn Bridge, where 10K people marched to uplift the voices of the Black and brown youth in New York City, while holding a casket to symbolize the death in the communities. Ramon is a national organizer for March for Our Lives and has been traveling the country this summer fighting against gun violence. And tell us, please, Ramon, whom are you representing and why you are here with us? Please give him a big hand.
Well, first, I want to apologize for the scruffiness of my beard. We've been traveling all summer, and we literally just finished yesterday, where we finished at Sandy Hook, where the awful tragedy of the mass shooting happened, where countless numbers of young children were taken because of the hands of a gun. And, you know, in this country, we see gun violence as just a constant norm. It's become too normal. It's become too ingrained in our lives every single time we turn on the TV. And a year ago, America witnessed terror, hatred, and pain. We saw a side of a country that has been long asleep wake up and remind us that we still live in a time where our neighbors must be educated and loved. We saw men march in the streets of Charlottesville practice their free speech, carrying signs and flags of hatred, yelling hurtful and not so uncommon words that displays our country's history in racism and discrimination. We live in a time where hatred and violence has peaked, and our government does nothing to fix it. Guns continue to create pain and trauma in our communities, and traveling this summer on the road to change in America, I've realized that pain connects us all, no matter where you come from, black or white, man or woman, Muslim, Christian, Jewish or Catholic, gay or straight, pain always feels the same. But when is enough enough? When are we finally going to see peace in the world? We have to go out and educate our friends and neighbors on the injustices of our country, and then we must act. We must make sure that we have an international coalition of peace to fight hatred and violence. Growing up in America and just alone in this world, I can't remember a time where violence was ever on my television screen. I grew up in the South Bronx, where I would see gun violence almost every day. I would see poverty and children without any new clothes. I would see broken down buildings where most of our black and brown youth will have to grow up in. I would see families struggle to attend to their medical needs because they don't have access to accessible health care. And we have to ask ourselves why. Why do we continue to go to war and spend billions on violence and pain, but not spend the same amount on the pursuit of happiness? We need to mobilize under the oath that we will win under peace, love, and unity, and not the act of war. We need to invest more into education around the country and create peace through our children. We need to teach our kids about love and compassion and not condition violence into their mindsets. I can see a world where every single human being can live amongst each other in peace, no matter their background, skin color. I see a world where children don't live in poverty and have access to quality education. And on the road to change, I know a story when I went to Texas and I encountered a counter-protester where they've been following us around the country with huge guns, AR-15s, yelling at us. And through that experience, I crossed the street and I had a conversation with one of the men who was there with his son, screaming at us with an AR-15. A gun used in almost every mass shooting in this country. And through that conversation, I realized that me and him had a lot in common, that we wanted to protect our loved ones, that we wanted to protect the people that we cared about. And later on, we exchanged numbers after we had a healthy debate about gun violence. And he called me and said, I want to thank you for talking to me because my son, who I brought there for different reasons, was able to witness our conversation and us almost coming to agreement. And if we, united as not just the country in America, but the world, can continue to have that debate and conversation, then we could see worldwide peace. And to finish that off, something we've been doing is going to key districts to register young people to vote because each vote matters. In a country where the politicians don't represent the majority of Americans, we try to push and put pressure on the political culture to shift the culture of just corruption and money and make it about empowerment and actually voting and having our voices represented in Congress and in the halls of the Senate. And that's what we've been doing on the road to change. And I feel with being here and having this platform, I hope you guys could spread what March for Our Lives have been doing internationally. And I hope to continue to see the great work come out this room. Thank you.
You know, we have so much to talk about, but because we are pressured with time. So I have another, this young man, he was also representing and working with the last shooting with the youth that happened in Florida. And they are supposed to be with us, and he is one of them who organized this. But we have to put a stop to the shooting in the schools. And that is very, very important that we all talk about this, whichever way we could do it. We have another person with us that he suffered a lot, and I think all of us have heard his story or the stories. It's the South Sudan children that walked all the way a few years ago. And he will share a few remarks with us when he speaks. His name is Philip Dang. He has been involved with the community activities for since his young age. He's a fellow of the South Sudanese, and he's now residing in Pennsylvania. But they have an amazing story, and we all heard about it. So if you can briefly share with us, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Please welcome him.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Kadar, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to be here with you to share the story of the Lost Boys of Sudan. Many of you might heard about the story, but when I heard about the opportunity to come here and tell the story of the Lost Boys of Sudan, I did not hesitate to come here and tell the story. So it was over 30 years ago. Sudan's civil war uprooted over 30,000 young Sudanese children, famously known as Lost Boys of Sudan. And between 1983 and 2005, war drove out millions of children from their families and villages in southern part of Sudan. Most of us were just only 6 years old. We fled to a neighboring country, Ethiopia, by foot. It took us over 1,000 miles to walk from Sudan to Ethiopia. By the time we arrived in Ethiopia, thousands of children unfortunately lost their lives. I choose to tell the story of the Lost Boys of Sudan for one reason, and that is to honor the young children who died at no fault of their own. I travel across the country telling the story of the Lost Boys, and also, as recently, the movie was made about the Lost Boys of Sudan. We resided shortly in Ethiopia for 2 years and then had to leave Ethiopia due to the civil war in Ethiopia. So we crossed the dangerous river in East Africa known as River Gilo. As we crossed the river, unfortunately, hundreds of children drowned. Some of them were eaten alive by the crocodiles in the river. But we managed to go back to Sudan and then walk again from Sudan to Kenya. We resided at the refugee camp known as Kakuma Refugee Camp in northern Kenya. The survivors of this horrible tragedy became known as Lost Boys of Sudan, went to school in Kenya. And between 1998 and 1999, the United Nations and the government of the United States came into an agreement to bring a certain number of young children here to the U.S. To provide that safe spaces for us. And so over 3,000 of us came here to the United States of America. And a few years later, most of us went to colleges and universities across the country. Some of us became doctors, some of us became lawyers, some of us became business owners, contributing to the economy here in the United States of America. And some of us went back and advocated for those children who were left behind in South Sudan. And some of us became human rights advocates as well. And so we contribute, like I say, to the economy of this country. When we provide safe spaces to youth, we invest in the future of the younger generation to come after us. There
Thank you
are
so
millions.
much. Thank you, my dear.
Okay, thank you.
We don't
I
have
understand.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give him a big hand. I will. We have also a few minutes, but we would like to also address another guest with us. He's an Emmy-nominated actor, Melvin Jackson. He's a producer-nominated speaker known for his bows in The Wire. That's what I have here to say.
Just had to leave for ABC interview just now.
Okay. And then we have the Veronica Jeffrey. She is the International Women Boxer Federation World Super Feather Lightweight. Laza. And her professional boxing record is 13-0. Wow. Where are you? Yeah. I don't know where she...
Let them see you.
And I would like to recognize wonderful people who joined us today, especially Miss Cindy Mingus, who came all the way and flew in last night, and the lovely ladies with her, and they all I have met recently, and I'm really, really grateful for your relationship with us, and hopefully it will be a long one. And also the parents of Jack, and for flying here as well. And most and not the least for Amelia's father and mother and brothers. So I'm very grateful that you are all here. And because of the time goes so fast. And I want to thank all the wonderful ambassadors who came today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, Danny, Austin, and Bill, who are amazing couple who are doing amazing work. And I'm one of the big things that we did last year, what was for the hearing health. At the UN, we have, of course, disability and so on, which our organization have been involved with for many, many years. But last year, we did only hearing health. And a lot of people benefit, a lot of people, and they came and thanked me because this has never been done before. And what else I can tell you? For sports and so on, we have athletes that we take to different places around the world. We have programs for women. We pursue and educate for 1325, which is a program that we do for women to educate them about, to stop the wars, to be involved in the rebuilding of their countries. And now I would like to give a small token for the accomplished young speakers that we've had. Would like to, if you please come here so I can give you a small award to remember us and to we remember this day.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I want to thank everybody for coming and giving us this opportunity. My name is Daniel. I'm the founder and CEO of Team 54 Project. It's a non-profit organization that raises awareness about the impact of climate change in 167 nations. First, I want to thank our moderator today because he has given an African like me an opportunity to witness what we can do to get young people to achieve sustainable development.
To key in from what the last speaker has said, I think another problem we always overlook is we want everybody cutting their coats according to the sizes. Some people do not want to go to school. However, they have other skills. So what I think we can do is encourage governments to create platform for people that have passion, skills, and drive that passion and skills to address the sustainable development goals. I'll give you an example. If you know how to play football very well, don't worry, you play football very well. However, this your passion will be used to address a global issue like climate change. So for every goal you score, we will plant 100 million trees in your village. For instance, you're an actress, you want to act. For every movie you make concerning environmental things, we'll plant trees in your village. And with that, we can get better. Thank you so much.
For all the work that you and Raf are doing with the young people and the plan of action. I guess the question I would raise with the young people, now the stage has been set for you by the generation before you. How are you going to move forward now to continue the plan of action for sustainable development goals? I thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll try to give you a short answer, but I might get into details because I mean it takes a lot of planning for us to do in order to implement the sustainable development goals. But I think since we're given the table, it would start with partnerships by speaking with non-governmental organizations about getting funding, about implementing the project. For instance, the project that I mentioned about I'm Not Zero, I'm in the initial stage where I have to plan the whole implementation of the process, engage partners in order to start this whole project. So partnerships will be the first step.
Education, education, education. In 2015, we did a big education conference right here in September, and it was for the first ladies of the world and for education of the women and girls. That we wanted to make sure that everyone agreeing on educating the girls, and of course the boys, but since the girls are always at the behind when education comes, so it is very imperative that education be #1 goal for all of us. And once we have that, then everything else will fit better in its place. One more question?
Mrs. Cater, if I ask that?
Yes, yes.
I would just want to say, thank you for your question. I think that you asked how we're going to start, but it also starts with you. It starts on the impact that you can make, and even if that's just a small impact, doing something in your home community, something that's very important, and that's how we find you in order to make this world a better place. And yeah, just it starts with your change that you can make in the world.
Again, thank you all for being here today. Thank you, and I hope you benefited from this conversation. And the youth keep on going.
And happy International Youth Day.
Day.